He said, what do I need to do? I said, you both need to go to therapy and try to fix this. He said, I want to marry your daughter. I said, if you want to marry my daughter, why didn't you marry my daughter before you had them two beautiful girls that you all have? I said, don't sit on this phone and tell me that you love my daughter and you don't mean it. I said, I'm going to tell you, don't ever put your hands on my daughter again or we're going to have a problem. He said, Ma, I'm sorry and I love you. I love your daughter. I'll never do it again. 4 days later, he killed my baby.
Hi there, and lawmakers saying that today is a tough day because they are talking about this case. Police identifying the victim as 29-year-old Sharita Cristwell. Her deceased body found in that apartment complex across the street behind me. The accused killer, no stranger.
If you can't get away, I am happy that my sister got a chance to experience love. Even though it wasn't with him, she got a chance to know what real love was. She did try to get away, but it was not in time. It was too late. Please find a way to get away.
Grace McCotter saying her daughter's boyfriend turned accused killer, 32-year-old Harry Lindsay, was recently arrested for trying to strangle her daughter, 29-year-old Sharita Cristwell. In that case, just 4 days prior, Lindsay was released over prosecutors' objections that he should be held without bond. Just days after being released, Lindsay is accused of fatally shooting Cristwell, his girlfriend and mother of their two daughters. Lindsay is now charged in connection with her murder that reportedly took place on Saturday afternoon inside an apartment here on Stratford Way in Landover. When police and first responders arrived, Cristwell was already dead.
He tried to choke the life out of her with his bare hands. He got arrested, he got released. And then, before the bruises on her neck had even fully faded, he called her mother not just to beg forgiveness, not just to make peace, but to say he wanted to marry her daughter. 4 days after that phone call, Sharita Cristwell was dead. She had two little girls. She had a business she'd built with her own hands. She had a family that loved her fiercely. She had tried to leave. She had moved on, and he could not live with that. So he took her life instead. This is the story of Sharita Cristwell, and it is also the story of every warning sign that was seen, documented, and ignored.
Developing tonight, we are hearing from the family of a Prince George's County mother who investigators say was killed in a violent attack by her ex and the father of her children. As our Alexis Wainwright found out, he was arrested but not held in jail for trying to strangle her just a few days prior.
The family of Sharita Cristwell says she was a successful makeup artist who really enjoyed life. Now they want people to hear her story and know that there's help out there for those who need it.
We won't see her anymore. Not anymore.
Emotions are high as this new reality sinks in.
I can't believe he did this to the mother of his kids.
Family is mourning their loss. 29-year-old Sharita Cristwell was shot and killed Saturday.
She was a beautiful person, a loving mother.
She was a mother of two.
They cry every day asking for their mom. But we're going to work through this and it's going to get better.
Police say this man, 32-year-old Harry Lindsay, shot and killed her during an argument inside an apartment in Landover.
She did try to get away, but it was not in time. It was too late.
If this is your first time here, welcome to Red Rage Crime TV on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. To everyone who has been watching and leaving comments, we read every single one of them. Every word. You keep coming back and we are going to keep bringing you these stories. Like this video, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get into it. Sharita Cristwell was born on June 6, 1996, in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area that shaped her whole world. People who knew her described her as the kind of person whose energy you could feel the moment she walked into a room. Warm, stylish, full of life. Her family called her Rita, and that name carried nothing but love. She had two mother figures in her corner, her biological mother and her adoptive mother, who raised her from childhood into adulthood. But two women who poured everything into her. And Sharita? She took everything they gave her and built something real. She became a makeup artist, not just good, genuinely gifted. Her business, Makeup by Heather, went by the name Gorgeous Heather, and she had carved out a name for herself across the entire DMV. She did makeup for K. Michelle. People sought her out. She was running her own business, building her own brand, creating her own lane. She loved outings, she loved vacations, she loved being a mother to her 2 daughters, Layla and Harmony. By the time she turned 29 on June 6, 2025, she had her girls, she had her business, and she had her people around her. She was stepping into her next chapter. But here is the thing about next chapters. Sometimes the previous chapter refuses to close. Harry Lindsay had been in Sharita's life for about 10 years. They had 2 daughters together. That is a decade of shared history, shared holidays, shared everything. But the family described that relationship as one that carried more weight than love, turbulent, marked by arguments, altercations, and a pattern that the people close to Sharita had watched for too long. Harry also had prior convictions on weapons charges. That matters. That always matters. At some point, Sharita made a decision. She chose herself. According to her family, the relationship ended after Harry was unfaithful to her. And when she walked away, he could not take it. Her mother said he broke down. He begged. He said, "Please don't leave me, Rita. If you leave me, I'm not going to be any good." He broke down in tears. And Sharita, who had given this man 10 years, who had 2 children with him, who still had to coexist with him for the sake of those girls, she tried to move forward. She had already found something better. She was already feeling what it was like to be treated right. And that is exactly what set him off. In the early hours of June 16, 2025, at approximately 4:21 in the morning, officers from the Bladensburg Police Department were dispatched to the 4300 block of 57th Avenue. A domestic incident. They arrived in 2 minutes, and when they made contact with Sharita, they could see it on her body. Visible marks. She told them exactly what happened. Harry had thrown her to the ground, assaulted her, and attempted to choke her. He had put his hands around her neck and tried to cut off her air. Harry Lindsay was arrested and charged with 1st and 2nd degree assault. He was transported to the Prince George's County Department of Corrections. Officers completed a domestic violence lethality assessment. The case was classified as high danger. Let that sink in. High danger. The system had a report. The system had visible injuries. The system had a classification that said this woman's life was at risk. And then the system had a choice to make. 2 days later, on June 18th, prosecutors from the state's attorney's office stood before a judge and asked for no bond. They argued the case clearly. A man who had just strangled the mother of his children should not be walking free. Former state's attorney and Prince George's County executive Aisha Braveboy made the stakes plain when she later spoke publicly. Strangulation victims are 7 times more likely to become victims of homicide. 7 times. That is not a statistic. She made up, that is why Maryland made strangulation a 1st-degree felony back in 2020, with a maximum penalty of 25 years. The law was upgraded from a misdemeanor specifically because legislators recognized what the data said. The judge said no. Later, Harry Lindsay walked out of the Prince George's County Department of Corrections with an ankle monitor on his leg and nothing standing between him and Sharita. So here's the question. You have to sit with what exactly is an ankle monitor supposed to do when a man who already tried to kill you knows exactly where you are? After his release, Harry did not reach out to Sharita directly. He called her mother. Sharice McCarter picked up the phone, and what she heard on the other end stopped her cold. He did not just apologize. He told her he wanted to marry Sharita. Think about that. This man had just been arrested for strangling her daughter. He had just walked out of jail, and his first move was to call her mother and talk about marriage. And you have to ask yourself, why her mother? Why not Sharita? Could it be that Sharita had already shut the door completely, already made clear there was nothing left to say, and he had no other way in? Was calling her mother a manipulation? A way to get a message through the one back channel he had left? Sharice told him in no uncertain terms, "Don't you ever put your hands on my daughter again," he said. "Mom, I'm sorry and I love you. I love your daughter. I'll never do it again." 4 days. That was the distance between that promise and Sharita's death. On July 5, 2025, a 4th of July weekend at approximately 3:35 in the afternoon, officers from the Prince George's County Police Department responded to a shooting inside an apartment at the 700 block of Stretford Way in Landover. That was Harry Lindsay's apartment. Witnesses had heard arguing, a confrontation, and then shots. When officers arrived, Sharita Cristwell was already gone. She was 29 years old. She had celebrated her birthday exactly 29 days before she was killed. And Harry Lindsay was gone. He had fled. He was still wearing that ankle monitor, the device that was supposed to protect Sharita, the device the system had decided was sufficient. It tracked him. It just could not stop him. The Prince George's County Police Department's homicide unit immediately took the lead. Detectives reached out to the Metro Transit Police Department, which provided critical surveillance footage that helped investigators track Harry's movements. The PGPD fugitive unit worked through the night, and on the morning of July 6, 2025, less than 24 hours after Sharita was killed, they located and arrested Harry Lindsay in Capitol Heights. He was taken into custody without incident and transported to the Department of Corrections on a no-bond status.
Police found
He was
Lindsay
charged
in
with
less than
first and
24
second-degree
hours.
murder,
Metro Transit Police.
the same
provided
no-bond
critical
status that should have been
surveillance
applied
video to
weeks
us,
earlier.
helped us locate the suspect.
Just days before the murder, police say Lindsay assaulted and strangled Cristwell. He was arrested by Bladensburg police, but released to be monitored at home.
I can't tell you why that happened, but what I can tell you is that it should not have.
Cristwell's mother says she talked to Lindsay on the phone.
He said, "Mom, I'm sorry and I love you. I love your daughter. I'll never do it again." 4 days later, he killed my baby.
About a week later, investigators say he shot and killed Cristwell.
We request routinely no bond, and oftentimes we receive a no bond status for the defendant. In this case, that didn't happen.
On July 6th, Sharita's sister posted on Facebook. She asked for prayers. She said Harry had taken her little sister Rita. She said he did not have to do it. She said she was still trying to process it and that she just could not. Those words, she just could not say everything that a whole paragraph could not. On July 8th, Prince George's County held a public press conference, and Sharice McCarter stood at that podium and said words that should be playing in every courtroom in America. He said, "Mom, I'm sorry and I love you. I love your daughter. I'll never do it again. 4 days later, he killed my baby." County Executive Aisha Braveboy was direct. "I believe that if this defendant were locked up, this victim would still be here." Councilwoman Wanaka Fisher put it plainly in her statement. "The perpetrator should have never been released back into the community. Failure to properly apprehend him cost a young woman her life." Sharita was the 10th domestic violence homicide in Prince George's County in 2025, the 10th. That number alone should make us all stop and ask what we're actually doing. On July 12th, the family gathered for a balloon release to honor Sharita. To celebrate her, remember her, hold on to her in the only way they had left. And on July 13th, her sister posted again a message about how people often only hear part of a story, how there are always 3 sides, how no one should assume they know everything. We do not know exactly what she meant, but if it was connected to this case, it reminds us of something important, that behind every headline there is a full life, a full story, layers that outsiders never see. What we see from outside is never the whole picture. On July 29, 2025, Sharita Cristwell was laid to rest at Faith City Central in Temple Hills, Maryland. Her mother posted afterward, "Sharita, mommy loves you. You will be truly missed but never forgotten. I can't stop thinking about you, my beautiful angel." Her girls, Layla and Harmony, cry every day asking for their mother. Sharice McCarter says she's going to get them therapy. She's going to love them, raise them right, and teach them if anyone ever threatens you, you call 911. She said, I never thought I would be standing here talking about this right now. Neither did any of us. Here is what this case actually is at its core. Sharita Cristwell did everything right. She left, she reported, she cooperated with officers, she told the truth about what happened. The system documented it, a high-danger lethality assessment, a first-degree felony charge, a prosecutor's request for no bond, a prior weapons conviction already on record. Every single red flag was right there, in writing, in a file attached to a name, and still the door opened, and Harry Lindsay walked out. The ankle monitor was not a safety plan. It was a symbol, and when it mattered most, it tracked the killer instead of stopping one. There is a pattern in cases like this, and it's not random. When a man strangles a woman, he has already decided in that moment that her life is worth less than his anger. It is not an accident. It is not a snap decision. It takes time. It takes intention. And the research backs this up. The legislature backed this up in 2020 when they made it a felony. And yet, somehow, the courtroom did not get that message in time for Sharita. Her sister said something at that press conference that deserves to echo. Don't give them chances. Don't give them chances. Do not believe what they say. They will manipulate you. And when they tell you they're going to kill you, they mean it. Before we go, to all of you watching on Red Rage Crime TV on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram, thank you. Genuinely. We see every comment you leave. Everyone. You share these stories, you reach out, you push us to keep going, and it means more than we can say. Keep the comments coming. These conversations matter. These names matter. Here is what we want to know from you today. Do you think the system failed Sharita Cristwell? Was this a breakdown by one judge, or is this something deeper, a pattern in how the justice system treats domestic violence cases, especially when the victims are Black women? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We are reading every single one. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It costs you nothing, and it helps more people find this channel. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. We are here every day bringing you these stories because they deserve to be told, and the people we've lost deserve to be remembered. Sharita Cristwell was a mother, a daughter, a sister, an entrepreneur, and a woman who was trying to get free. She almost made it. We are going to make sure her name is never forgotten. We'll see you in the next one.
I would like to let you know that we have pamphlets that are available to the press. Prince George's County offers a number of resources for domestic violence victims. I'd like to bring up now our county executive, Aisha Braveboy.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a tough day. It's a tough day for us here in Prince George's County because just a few short days ago, we lost a young mother of two, Sharita Cristwell, or Rita, as her mother called her, and her friends. She was the victim of domestic violence. She was the victim of a homicide that should not have occurred. This homicide should not have occurred. You know, it's hard because as state's attorney, unfortunately, I handled several of these cases every single year, families who were victimized by the death of a loved one. But it was those deaths that occurred at the hands of people who the victim knew and was supposed to be loved and cared for by the victim that hurt the most. And I always wonder, what could we have done differently? How could we have prevented this death from occurring? And in a case like this, where you have a defendant who came into contact with the criminal justice system a number of times, had been convicted of possession of weapons, who was arrested and charged with first and second degree assault as it related to the victim just days before this incident happened. You think, couldn't we have prevented this? Ms. Cristwell was assaulted, looking back on it now, the day before I left office on the 17th of June. On the 18th of June, my office argued that the individual who had abused her, who we believe tried to kill her by strangulation, should be held without bond. Should be held without bond. Anyone who strangles you intends to kill you. Make no mistake. When someone puts their hands around your neck, a ligature around your neck, cuts off your airflow, they intend to kill you. Not just harm you, but kill you. And that's why I fought so hard back in 2020 to make strangulation a first-degree felony offense here in Maryland, so that finally the justice system would recognize the seriousness and dangerousness of this action. Victims of strangulation are 7 times more likely to be victims of homicide. That is understood, and that's why the legislature agreed with me and enhanced the penalties for strangulation, made it a first-degree felony with a 25-year maximum penalty. Before, it was treated like a misdemeanor. Now it's a felony. And so when someone is strangled by someone who they know, it is likely that they will face further violence and potential death. And so the court system also has to take that type of action and allegation seriously as well. And that's why my office and the current state's attorney also believes very strongly that strangulation is the type of offense that requires our judicial system to ensure that our victims are protected, And we absolutely must, again, ensure that victims of this type of violence don't have to encounter their abusers, don't have to live, afraid because someone out there intends to kill them. So in this case, unfortunately, the defendant was released about a week later, and then on July 5th, Ms. Cristwell was killed by this same defendant. I do know that our state's attorney's office, led by Tara Jackson, will get justice for this victim. I believe very strongly that they will work and fight for her memory, for her children, for her family, for her friends, for other victims who have suffered from domestic violence. Unfortunately, she serves as an example of what can happen. Please, if you are a victim of domestic violence, don't stay. Don't stay. It does not get better. It only gets worse. And if you are a victim of strangulation, please seek help. Please know that you have a criminal justice system that will stand behind you. that we will believe our victims, that we will fight for them every single day, that we have resources available to assist you to get away from your abuser. And I know it's tough being in situations where you may have children in common, or you may live together, or you've been with a person a long time. We understand the inclination to even care about the abuser. We understand that. But you gotta care about yourself more. You gotta care about your children, your family. You gotta care about the people who are positive in your life, who love you. You gotta care about you more than the person who's abusing and hurting you. And so we'll talk about the circumstances around this case. I know that our assistant chief, George Nichols, along with members of his team and members of the Bladensburg Police Department, will talk about how we got here. But right now, I want the family to come forward to talk about what we lost. Because it is so important to know that victims aren't just numbers. They're human beings. And they have families who love them and care about them and who will forever miss them. So, Mom, sister, if you can come up and state your name and then talk to them about your daughter.
Good afternoon. My name is Joris Makata. I'm Sharita Cristwell, biological mom. I was on the phone with her once Harry Lindsay came home from trying to strangle my daughter. He said, "Ma, I want to talk to you about something." I said, "Okay, I'm going to listen." He said, "I love your daughter." And I said, "If you love my daughter, why would you put your hands on my daughter?" I said, "That was the wrong thing to do." He said, "What do I need to do?" I said, "You both need to go to therapy and try to fix this." He said, "I want to marry your daughter." I said, "If you want to marry my daughter, why didn't you marry my daughter before you had them two beautiful girls that you all have?" I said, "Don't sit on this phone and tell me that you love my daughter and you don't mean it." I said, "I'm going to tell you, don't ever put your hands on my daughter again or we're going to have a problem." He said, "Ma, I'm sorry and I love you. I love your daughter. I'll never do it again." 4 days later, he killed my baby. I can't believe he did this to the mother of his kids. 10 years. Now my two grandbabies don't have a mother or a father. He don't deserve to come home. He should never come home. Anybody that ever tell a woman that they love them, or I really mean it, they say things that they think we want to hear. But when he tell you he's going to kill you, you need to get away. He's not going to say it just to say it. He's saying it because he mean it. It's too many women out here losing their lives over domestic violence, and it's not fair. My daughter wanted to get away from him. He said, "I don't want you to leave me." He said, "Please don't leave me, Rita. If you leave me, I'm not going to be any good." He broke down. I said, "You opened this door. You cheated on my daughter. So now when she found somebody else that was making her happy, you're angry. You took her life. You get to go to jail and be free. I'll never get her back. Never get her back." Domestic violence is very serious. And people need to acknowledge this. When somebody tell you this, I don't care how afraid you are, you need to report it. Don't be scared. They're going to tell you, "I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill your family." No, you tell. That's why we have 911. You call, you get help. It could save your life. And I wish I was there to try to save my daughter's life. But she's gone now. I can't believe he did this. He told me he would never, ever hurt my daughter. And he did it. And you could see the rage in his eyes. I'm sorry. This feeling, this pain that I have, it will never go away. I have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And my grandkids, they cry every day. I'm going to get them therapy. I'm going to love them. I'm going to take care of them. And I'm going to raise them the right way. And I'm going to teach them, if you ever get in a relationship and a man threatens you, you make sure you let me know, or you know how to call 911 and get help. I never thought I would be standing here talking about this right now. It's a hurtful feeling. But ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand domestic violence is very serious. Don't be afraid. Speak out and tell your truth. And it could save your life.
Hello, everybody. I'm gonna try to become Sharita Cristwell was my little sister. My mother, Joyce Cristwell, adopted Sharita Cristwell. She raised her until she got an adult. And I watched her grow from a child. I never thought that I would be here to say anything about domestic violence. I always tell my sisters or any of my friends, family, anybody, if you're going through anything, if you find somebody that you can trust to talk to about anything. I know sometimes things are hard. Some people can be embarrassed or ashamed, but never feel ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. Find someone to talk to. Find your resources. There's plenty of resources out here. I lost my sister-in-law to the same situation. Her husband was on drugs. He shot her in her back and killed her. She had 4 children. They looked like their mom, and it was so hard for me to be around them so much because they looked just like her, just like her. So please, if you can, find someone to talk to, someone to help you. There's so many resources out here. The internet is flooded with information. Just go to it, find it. Please, if you can't get away, I am happy that my sister got a chance to experience love. Even though it wasn't with him, she got a chance to know what real love was. She did try to get away, but it was not in time. It was too late. Please find a way to get away. Please. Domestic violence is serious. It's nothing to play with. Never let anybody, I don't care if it's a man, I don't care if it's a woman, do not let anybody put their hands on you. Don't give them chances. Don't give them chances. Then don't believe anything they say. They're going to manipulate you to the fullest. Don't listen to them. Do what you think is best for yourself, and please, if you have children, please find a way to get out. Your kids should not have seen a man or woman being beat on. It just doesn't make sense. No child should be able. Those kids gonna have to grow up listening to them. He argued in front of the kids. The kids see them arguing plenty of times. No child needs to experience that. Those kids definitely will have to get therapy. They lost their mother and their father. Sometimes, God forgive me for saying this, I wish he would have turned the daggone gun on himself. I'm sorry to say. We won't see her anymore. Not anymore. He didn't deserve to go like that. He didn't deserve it.
One more thing I want to say. My daughter was the DMV makeup artist. She did a lot of people makeup. She did K. Michelle. She did another young lady. I can't remember her name, but everybody loved my daughter. She did makeup very, very well. She did her own business. She did this for herself. And she treated her daughter so good. She was a beautiful person, a loving mother. And she tried to make this man happy, but it wasn't enough for him. He was never satisfied. So now she's gone, he's gone, and I hope he stay gone, because I'll never get my daughter back. And thank you guys for the support and the help, because I'm going to need it, because this is never going to go away. I just want to get my grandkids therapy so they could be okay. They cry every day asking for their mom. But we're going to work through this, and it's going to get better. Yes. But just know, y'all need to get help when they threaten y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with all of the sentiments just expressed by the family. Now I will turn the podium over to Assistant Chief George Nichols.
Afternoon. I'm just at a loss for words that we're here today to discuss such a tragic event and a loss of such a beautiful life at an early age. What I'd like to do is, although they mentioned resources, I tell you, the Prince George's County Police Department, we have a great victim advocate. We have the House of Ruth. We have many shelters. We partner with the Family Justice Center here and the Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff. So please, if you are suffering, you do not have to suffer in silence. I ask that you please reach out so we can get you the resources you need to help you be removed from an unhealthy situation or relationship. Before I turn the microphone over to Deputy Chief Leitner, who will go over the particulars of the investigation and the arrest, I'd like to thank our partners in law enforcement that were instrumental in helping us with this arrest, specifically the Metro Transit Police Department, the men and women of the Metro Transit Police Department. Thank you for your assistance. At this point in time now, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Chief Leitner to go over some of the details and specifics of the case.
Good afternoon. As he said, I'm Deputy Chief Leitner with the Bureau of Investigation. On July 5th at approximately 3:35 p.m., our officers responded to a call for service for a shooting inside of an apartment in the 700 block of Stretford Way in Landover. Officers arrived on scene, located the victim, who was ultimately pronounced deceased on scene. Our victim in this case is 29-year-old Sharita Cristwell, who from Bladensburg, Maryland. Our suspect in this case is 32-year-old Harry Lindsay of Landover, Maryland. Our investigation in this case revealed that the suspect shot the victim during an argument between the two. As Assistant Chief Nichols said, thanks to the quick work of our homicide and fugitive units, as well as help from our partners at Metro Transit Police, who provided critical surveillance video to us, helped us locate the suspect within minutes and begin tracking him. Our fugitive unit worked tirelessly over the next several hours, and within hours of this shooting happening, we were able to bring our suspect into custody and take him to the Department of Corrections, where he's being held on no bond status. He's been charged with first and second degree murder in this case.
Take any questions?
Yes, I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Boyd or for Luis, a few questions. So was he actually charged with the strangling from that incident? The home detention, so he was currently on the home detention at the time that this incident happened, correct? And how many domestic homicides?
So, Ms. Spencer, to answer your questions in order, yes, he was charged for the strangulation in Bladensburg, and I do have Assistant Chief Cedric Dickerson, who will speak to that as the Chief of Bladensburg. In regards to the domestic violence homicides, there have been a total of 10. All 10 have been closed, 9 by arrest, and 1, unfortunately, an exception where the suspect took his own life during that incident. Last year, this time, I believe we're down, was it 38%? It's like 37%. So we have a very sharp decrease in domestic-related homicides, but still one homicide, domestic homicide is one domestic homicide too many. So at this time, let me turn it over to Assistant Chief Cedric Dickerson so he can give you the information on the Bladensburg incident.
As stated, my name is Deputy Chief Cedric Dickerson with the Bladensburg Police Department. On behalf of Chief Tyrone Collington, we want to express our sincere sympathy to the family. This is a tragic and unnecessary event that should not have ever occurred. So, with that being said, on June the 16th, at approximately 4:21 a.m., officers from Bladensburg Police Department were dispatched to the 4300 block of 57th Avenue in Bladensburg for a domestic involving the victim, Sharita Cristwell. Officers arrived on the scene 2 minutes after being dispatched at 4:23 a.m. and made contact with Harry Lindsay in the hallway. Once officers contacted the victim, Sharita Cristwell, they noticed visible marks and placed the suspect in custody. Miss Cristwell bravely reported that she had been thrown to the ground, assaulted, and strangled. Officers charged Harry Lindsay with first and second degree assault and transported him to Prince George's County Department of Corrections. Officers also provided the victim with information and access to domestic violence counseling services, enrolled her in VineLink, and completed domestic violence lethality assessment to support her safety. Just to say, we are very heartbroken about this incident. It was very tragic, the loss, and it was very devastating to all of our community. Our hearts go out to the victim's family and loved ones as they navigate unimaginable grief. We mourn with them and reaffirm our commitment to protecting victims of domestic violence and holding offenders accountable.
You mentioned your prior role that you would push for no bond.
The prosecutor, yes, the prosecutor who was handling the bail review hearing requested a no bond for this defendant.
Where does the problem lie in the system if he was still allowed to be released? And what can your office do to fix it?
So, obviously I'm no longer a state's attorney. I can tell you that what we do, or what in my prior role, what we did was we looked at the seriousness of the allegations against a suspect, the potential harm to any victim or to the general public, and we would make a recommendation on what we believe was appropriate for pretrial status. What I can tell you is that in cases involving strangulation in particular, because of the lethality involved, we request routinely no bond. And oftentimes we receive a no bond status for the defendant. In this case, that didn't happen. The justice system isn't just the prosecutor's office, right? You have defense, you have judges, you have other judicial officers who make their own assessments and determinations. What I can say is that I have always believed that strangulation was one of the most serious crimes that anyone can commit, because when you think about it, it takes time to actually kill someone by strangulation. And what you'll hear from strangulation victims often is that those who survived, is that they were unconscious for a moment, or, they felt, that they felt like they were going to die. The person who's applying that level of pressure on someone means and intends to kill them. They have no regard for them as a human being, which is why they can commit such a heinous, violent, and honestly, unlike in some instances, if you're shooting someone, that's different than if you are manually strangling someone. So just that act alone is just so heinous that anyone who's willing to do that is someone who is a danger, not only to the victim, but potentially to others. I can't say why the decision was made completely to allow this particular defendant to be released on home monitoring. I can't tell you why that happened, but what I can tell you is that it should not have. I think that domestic violence is very complicated, as I mentioned. I think that our system has to do a much better job of understanding victims and victimhood and what's needed in order to protect victims. I believe that if this defendant were locked up, this victim would still be here.
Take one last question.
Ms. Cristwell's mother mentioned that her daughter and Ms. Williams were together about 10 years. Do you know at what point their relationship had ended?
I don't know exactly when, but they were not in a relationship at the time. That's my understanding, that they were not in an intimate relationship at the time of the incident.
Just clarifying, because the family did say she had found someone else. So did that play a role?
That I can't tell you. I mean, it's too early into the investigation to determine what the cause was.
Another question about a different subject, maybe this from Chief Nichols, but if the Prince George's police officer was involved in the crash last night, being investigated by the state police, someone lost their life, looks like that person's actually retired at the date. Can you tell us anything about what do you know about that incident?
Well, as you said, Brad, that investigation is being handled by Maryland State Police. It was an off-duty officer that was involved in that. As policy and procedure states, he is on an administrative leave status with pay. At this point in time, that's all I can say about that right now. Thank you for the question.
Thank you all.